right, joining me for a chat is Blair Feltmate, Director of the Intact Center on Climate Adaptation at the University of Waterloo. Blair, thanks for joining the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
My gosh, the scenes out of Jasper, sobering as you can get, right? I mean, what else could they say? The picture paints 1,000 words. Well, that's plenty right there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, unfortunately, about a third of the infrastructure in the town was lost, and most of the buildings lost was at the level of residential housing, actual houses burning down.
Yep, indeed. I read a recent story in which you were talking about the fact that Canada's premiers who met here in Nova Scotia recently, and they discussed climate and climate change and adaptation. It was one of their talking points, I guess. But you say that look, we need a lot more than talk at this point, right?
Yes, and I mean it's good that they're focusing attention on climate change and extreme weather, and particularly, and there's really three perils that enter the discussion regularly. It's wildfires, flooding, and extreme heat, all of which you've experienced as major challenges in Nova Scotia over the last couple of years. So discussing it is one thing, preparing for it, those events is another. And in my view at least, what the Premier should be doing is pushing out known solutions, well worked out solutions that a lot of very smart people have with a lot of experience have worked out over the years as to how we can better prepare for flooding, wildfire, and extreme heat at the level of the home and at the level of the community. We know the problems, we know the solutions, and the problem is we're not rolling out solutions quickly enough. And by the way, I don't mean nothing's being done. There's a lot of good things being done, but I think we need to roll out these solutions more rapidly than is currently the case.
All right. Well, give me some examples of what you think should be coming out more rapidly.
Well, I would start with the home. Because that's individual houses, because that's under the control of the house, the homeowner, and we know what to do at the level of the house to make it such that when fire comes through, I'm just going to focus on wildfire for a second. When wildfire comes through a region, we can better protect that house from burning down when fire enters the region. Engaging such activities as, for example, remove shrubbery that's right around the wall, touching the wall of the house. Within 2 meters of the house, get rid of shrubbery, because when fire comes through a region in a forested or grassland area, those shrubs ignite, the heat transfers to the house, and the house burns down. Don't store your firewood at your back door for convenience purposes. For obvious reasons, you don't want to do that. Replace wooden fences with chain link fences, because when wood fences ignite, the fire just follows the fence up to the house and the house burns down. If you have large conifers or needle-bearing trees within 10 meters of your house, get rid of them, because if they ignite, they go up like a torch. They release extreme amount of heat that will transfer to a house, and the house will burn down if that conifer catches on fire. Decks can be made of fire-rated material that won't burn. You can have non-combustible siding on the wall of your house that if the flames get up to it, it won't ignite. And in particular, you can have what's called Class A fire-resistant roof covering in the form of cement fiber or metal roofing that make it such that if embers land on the roof, they won't ignite the roof, and then the house won't burn down. Mm-hmm. So those are just some examples of what people can do around their house. And by the way, I'm not saying it's easy or that there's no cost attached to it. But if you live in an area where there's a reasonable chance that you're going to be exposed to wildfire, I would look at it like this. I would say, I'm getting up every day of my life for 25, 30 years to pay for this structure. Mm-hmm. This is my biggest investment in life and probably my retirement plan. Putting a small amount of effort into protecting that investment from burning down is a good idea. And by the way, you can do the same thing at the level of the home for flood protection. For example, if you have a basement with a sub pump in it, check the sub pump before the big storms hit to make sure it actually even works. And it's as simple as pouring a bucket of water into a sump well and see, does the pump turn on and pump water outside? If it does, that's good. If it doesn't, fix it ahead of the storm. Most people find out their sub pump doesn't work when they have three feet of sewer water in the basement. We found 70% of homes in Canada have somewhere around the property where the grading directs water towards the house versus away from it. So you check your grading and make sure and set it up so that water flows away from the foundation, not towards it. Have a battery backup supply for your sub pump. If you have this sub pump in the basement, well, the time you need the sub pump to work is when the big storms hit. And very often when the big storms hit, the electricity goes out for an extended period of time. And then the sub pump doesn't work and your basement floods. So you need a battery backup supply to run which is a couple $100 to run the battery, to run the sub pump for 48 to 72 hours in the event of an electricity outage. So those are just a few simple examples of what homeowners can do and what the premiers should be doing. The premiers, we have all these actions listed concisely on literally single sheets of paper, like infographics showing these actions diagrammatically. And the premiers should be promoting this material, helping to roll it out, working with communities to get it into the hands of homeowners. And what we have found all across Canada is that when people are given this information, homeowners are given this information, 70% of them will take at least 2 actions to protect their homes from flooding and or wildfire within a few months. So in other words, people will act to protect their homes when they know what to do. The reason they're not acting very often is they just simply don't know what to do.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And like you said, if people, like you just rattle off a lot of really good things. And ensure in a perfect world, if somebody had an unlimited amount of resources, they redo their roof, redo their siding, do all those things. But we know in a perfect world that's not the case. So do what you can. That's your point here, right? There are things you can do.
Yeah, or stage it. Do it in stages. Do what you can do. Like checking the sub pump doesn't cost you a dime. And it takes about half an hour.
Right.
So there are many simple actions, but at the time when you do have to re-roof your house, say to yourself, is it worth spending 25% more to get a roof material that won't ignite if embers land on it? And by the way, if you never need it, that's great, but you'll sleep better at night knowing that you've got this. Or just moving, if you have a large conifer trees within a few meters of your house, it's not that big a deal and by the way, I'm not saying you do this cavalierly, but it's not that big a deal to remove them in the event that fire comes through a region. So a great many actions can be done for, it's really no money. It's just a matter of effort.
Yep. Interesting. Blair, thanks for your time. Appreciate it very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Anytime.
All right, take care. Blair Feltmate, Director of the Intact Center on Climate Adaptation at the University of Waterloo, with a lot of great information.